I'm Chelsea and I am here with my spring book haul. So I did a book haul video a couple months back, one of my first couple videos, and since then I have acquired a pretty substantial amount of books and I just wanted to share about these books. So most of them are either thrifted or from little free libraries. I think a couple are brand new, but for the most part they're all used or free, because that's the kind of person I am. I think I'll just start with my little free library stack, and I have like 25 books here, so I'm just gonna go pretty fast through them, not tell you a whole lot about them. Let's start with the little free library finds. First up, this book I actually just randomly found. I've never heard of it before, but this one sounded interesting. So this is A Fatal Illusion by Anna Lee Huber. It says a Lady Darby mystery, so I think it's the first in a series. I like this cover. It feels very moody and good for fall maybe. So this is a historical mystery, I think. It says Yorkshire, England, August 1832. And it says, new parents Lady Kira Darby and Sebastian Gage look forward to introducing Sebastian's father to his granddaughter, but instead find themselves investigating an attempt on his life. So it seems like good vibes. Like the cover a lot, so we'll see if I get to this historical mystery. So next I found Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and I've actually already read this one. Funny story, I had a copy of this. It was kind of a worn, very well loved mass market paperback that I just took with me one day when I did some little free library hunting, thinking that I would trade it with another book, and if I found a better version of this somewhere I would take it. So that day I took that mass market paperback copy and I found this in another little free library. This perfectly new condition, basically. It still has the tag for $16 on it. So yeah, I found this the same day that I swapped out the old version. Like I said, I already read and loved this book. This one was popular a couple years back, and it's about a girl named Eleanor Oliphant who is kind of socially awkward. She doesn't really know how to interact with people. She's kind of isolated, and she meets this guy named Raymond at her work. They become friends and she just kind of slowly opens up. There's some definitely heavier moments in this that I didn't expect when I read it, but overall this was a really enjoyable read. Okay, next up I found Matilda by Roald Dahl, and I initially just got this because I thought this would be fun for my daughter to read when she's a little older, but honestly I also want to read it. I love the movie and it's just a really sweet story. I'm not going to tell you about this because I'm sure you are familiar with Matilda, but it's like middle grade. There's pictures in it. Very fun, bigger text. This would be a really easy read. This was a fun little find. Okay, next up I found All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers, and this is a thriller that kind of had been on my radar. I've seen the cover around, heard of it, but I don't know a ton about it. I think it's about some girls that have gone missing from this town over the course of time. There's a main character named Margot, and she returns to town. She's kind of investigating the case. Feels like maybe Flicker in the Dark, if you've read that one, like small town girls go missing. So we'll see what I think about this one. Okay, next, this is another one that I had never heard of, but I just saw and picked it up. So this is called Brown Girls by Daphne Palasi Andredes. I don't know if I said that right. I love this cover. It called out to me and it sounded interesting. So it's set in Queens, New York, and it follows this group of young women of color, all from different immigrant backgrounds. It looks like it just follows their early lives and kind of a coming of age story, just them kind of figuring out their identity as women of color. That's really all I know. I mostly like to go into books not knowing a whole lot, but the premise sounds interesting and it's pretty small. So yeah, Brown Girls. Okay, next up, I found Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This one, I believe, takes place in Nigeria and America and London, I guess all over the place, but it's about this couple. I probably won't pronounce their names correctly, Ifemelu and Obinze. They are young and in love. The girl, Ifemelu, goes to America, but this is post 9/11, and so Obinze hopes to join her, but he's not able to go, and then he goes to London, and he's undocumented. So it says, at once powerful and tender, Americana is a remarkable novel of race, love, and identity by the award-winning writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I've heard really great things about this, and of course I'm always wanting to diversify my reading, and was really glad to find this in a little free library. Okay, next up I found Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. I really just love this cover. It's very bright and springy, and I love a good book about a bookstore. I also don't really know much about this. I had seen it recommended by someone else on BookTube. Looks like it takes place in San Francisco. The store is kind of mysterious. There's not a lot of customers. They check out large obscure volumes from strange corners of the store. This guy Clay is kind of looking into what's happening, and there's a lot of secret and mystery. Sounds like a magical realism type book, maybe. Sounds kind of cool. Next up, I got Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Classic. Never read it. It was on my TBR for last month. I didn't get to it. I'm probably going to wait till the fall because it seems kind of like a gothic horror. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it because most people probably know about this book. Next up, I found Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. Just look at this cover. Amazing. When I found this hardback in a little free library, I was just overjoyed. I've really been wanting to get to her books, and I actually have 2 of her books in this book haul. This one I think has kind of a sci-fi speculative fiction bent, maybe some time travel. Up here it says, a novel of art, time, love, and plague that takes the reader from Vancouver Island in 1912 to a dark colony on the moon nearly 500 years later, unfurling a story of humanity across centuries and space. So a large span of time. There's a pandemic. I think she writes a lot of post-apocalyptic sci-fi time travel pandemic type books. So yeah, excited to read this. Next, I got The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth. So I recently read The Soulmate by her and enjoyed it. And so when I found this, I was like, why not? Might as well check out another one. And she kind of specializes in domestic thrillers. Looks like this one follows a family. We have the husband who is a heart surgeon getting married again. We have the daughters who are not so sure about this new fiance. We have the former wife, and then we have the younger wife. So a lot of drama. We'll see if I like this other book by her. Okay, next up I found Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. This was another super exciting find. If you watched my TBR video before this one, I had this on my TBR, but it was a library book, and I did not get to it, and I had to return the book, and I was very sad because I want to read it. And then I found it in a little free library like weeks later. So I'm very excited to now own this because I really do want to read it. This is a literary fiction, and it is an homage to Little Women, so it's kind of just like a family story with some romance. So William Waters grew up in a house silenced by tragedy where his parents could hardly bear to look at him, much less love him. So when he meets the spirited and ambitious Julia Padovano in his freshman year of college, it's as if the world has lit up around him. And she has her 3 sisters. He gets to meet all of them, and then things from his past kind of surface, create some drama in their lives. Family rift seems like a really powerful, maybe heartbreaking, but heartwarming family story. Next, I have Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour. I just love this cover, so pretty. Another book of the month. This one I've heard of, but I didn't really know much about, but I am intrigued by it. So it's about Sarah Foster. She runs away from home and she's in LA. She is a bartender, and then there's another character named Emily, and she and Sarah meet, and there's a lot of baggage, things that prevent them from diving into a relationship right away, and they kind of just have to decide like if they want to take the risk. And so another kind of literary fiction. Okay, 2 more in this little free library category. This one is A Winter in New York by Josie Silver, a book of the month copy. This is December 2023, so pretty new. I think I've heard of this author before, but have never read anything by her. I don't think I'd heard of this book. I really like the cover, and I love New York. It looks like it's about a chef, and there's gelato, so I'm sold. I'm not a big contemporary romance type reader, but this just looks like a fun, kind of cozy, wintry story. I love books set in New York, so yeah, you know, why not? And then lastly, another contemporary romance, actually. This is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, another book of the month. And I've actually read this one already. I listened to it on audio and I really loved it. Probably one of my favorite contemporary romances I've read. It's just super cute, funny, no spice, which is great. I don't mind spice, but it's nice to kind of have some romances that don't have it. It's just kind of refreshing sometimes. And so I thought it'd be fun to have on my shelf. Again, seeing this great hardback copy in a little free library, it just brings so much joy. So this is about Hannah Brooks, who is the main character, and she is a executive protection agent, a bodyguard, and she gets hired to protect this superstar actor named Jack Stapleton. So he has a stalker, and he goes home to help his mom out, and Hannah becomes his bodyguard, and then she also is pretending to be his girlfriend as a cover. We got some good fake dating here. It's a really sweet, funny romance. So that concludes my Little Free Library haul. You gotta check out Little Free Libraries. It's amazing. Obviously, I took books to replace these with. It's just so fun. I love it. Giving back to the community, trading books out, finding new ones. It's just great. Okay, next is my category of thrifted books. A lot of these are Goodwill, local used bookstores, and then also Pango Books, which is a online book selling and buying service. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I'm not sponsored, but there's a great selection and you can sell your books on there. I found a lot of good ones for cheaper on there. So a couple of my books from here are from Pango Books, and then like I said, the rest are Goodwill or local used bookstores. Just gonna dive in. I have like 10 thrifted books here. We have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This one has been on my list for a long time. I've heard a lot of really good things about it. I think it's kind of a sweeping generations kind of story, historical and literary fiction. Okay, can you move? It says, history is seldom kind. In Min Jin Lee's best-selling magisterial epic, 4 generations of a poor, proud immigrant family fight to control their destinies, exiled from a homeland they never knew. It seems pretty intense, pretty heavy from what I've heard, very heavy topics. Stop chewing my book, dude. I just bought that. I've heard nothing but good things about this. I think this is one that I'm intimidated by, but that I think I'm really gonna love. Next up, we have Pure Nessie by Susanna Clark. Love this cover. Also, the dust, not the dust jacket, the inside is really cool. You got Pura Nessie with the thing on the side. I love when you open it up and there's something kind of different on the inside, and you have all this too. So I was recently watching And They Were Readers. If you haven't watched their videos, check them out. And they were raving about this book. I think it was in their March Madness bracket, trying to pick like their top favorite books, and this was their top book. Spoiler alert. I've had this on my list for a while, but that inspired me to bump it up even more. And honestly, every time I read the synopsis, I'm like, I don't know what this is about. I really don't. I think it's very atmospheric. It says, intoxicating, hypnotic new novel set in a dreamlike alternative reality. So I'm not going to try to understand what it's about. I just want to go into it and experience the vibes. I'm excited to have this one and get to it hopefully soon. Next up, we have Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I'm actually currently reading this, not very far in. So this is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, which if you watched my wrap-up video, I loved Six of Crows, and so I'm very excited to read the second book. Can't really tell you what it's about because it would spoil things, but it's just continuing to follow Kazbrecker and his buddies in Ketterdam, their shenanigans. I'm enjoying this so far. Very happy to own this. Now we have Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and this is a YA dystopian, think Hunger Games style. I have had this one on my radar for a while, have heard a lot of good things about it. This says, a world with no hunger, no disease, no war, no misery. Humanity has conquered all those things and has even conquered death. Now scythes are the only ones who can end life, and they are commanded to do so in order to keep the size of the population under control. Citra and Rowan are chosen to apprentice to a scythe, a role that neither wants. They have to figure out the price of this role. Anyway, I really want to get to this. I love me some YA dystopian fiction, you know? Next up is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. I talked about this in my April TBR because this is on my April TBR. Love the cover, and it's the first book in the Neapolitan novels series set in Italy, and it's about these two friends growing up on the outskirts of Naples, goes through their lives through time. We'll see if I get to it this month. I hope so. I've heard really good things about this series. Next, we have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I'm sure y'all have heard of this. It's pretty popular, and there's a show now. So it's about a flu pandemic that ends civilization as we know it. That sounds familiar, right? And then 20 years later, there's kind of a time jump, and it goes back and forth in time, depicting life before and after the pandemic. So more kind of sci-fi, post-apocalyptic style. Next up, we have Anne of Avonlea by L.M. Montgomery. This cover kind of cracks me up. Not my favorite cover, but you know, it's fine. So this is the second book in the Anne of Green Gables series. I don't know what the series is called, but the first book is Anne of Green Gables, which I read and loved, and this is just continuing an Anne's story. She's 16 years old and she's teaching. She's as feisty as ever, determined to inspire young hearts with her own ambitions, and so yeah, just kind of continuing her story. I'm really excited to get back into Anne's world. Okay, we're done. Next up, we have My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. That's a mouthful. By Frederick Bachman. I think this completes my collection of his books. I think I own every book of his except for the novella. I don't know why I decided to collect his books. I've only read Anxious People and Beartown. I really liked both. So I'm just collecting them all. And I found a couple in Little Free Libraries and then thrifted others. This one is about Elsa, who's 7 years old, and then her grandma, who is 77 years old. They're best buddies, but her grandma dies and she leaves behind a series of letters. Elsa kind of goes on this adventure scavenger hunt, typical Frederick Bachman style, with some humor, some lightheartedness, and then some harder hitting things. Just talking about being a human. I'm excited to have this. Okay, you probably haven't heard of this one, so I'm really excited to introduce you to this new book that no one has ever heard of. This is Fourth Wing. Gotcha. So I read this back in the fall. I listened to it, binged that and Iron Flame in a short amount of time. And now I own it. I love the shininess and I just want it on my shelf. You know, some people hate this, some people love it. I fall in the camp of loving it. It's just a good time. It's not the pinnacle of literature, but I don't care because it's fun. Who knows if I'll ever reread it, but it's just a fun one to own. So there you go, Fourth Wing. Check it out if you've never heard of it. And last but not least, in my thrifted book haul, we have Miracle Creek by Angie Kim, another book of the month. This one sounds really interesting. This is a literary courtroom thriller about an immigrant family and a young single mother accused of killing her autistic son. So that's already a lot. This is Angie Kim's debut novel. It takes place in Virginia. There's an experimental medical treatment device and it mysteriously explodes, killing 2 people. And then it kind of launches into this courtroom drama. She drew on her own experience as an immigrant, a lawyer, and mother of a real-life submarine patient. It seems like a really interesting book. Another literary fiction. I'm noticing a theme. There's a lot of literary fiction here. I guess I'm a bigger fan of the genre than I thought, or just wanting to get into it more. Okay, for my new books, I only have 2 of them because, again, I mostly thrift or get little free library books, but I thought I would treat myself to a couple new books. I'll just share really quick and then that'll be it. So we have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I've seen this all over BookTube. People have been loving it for the most part, and this is a gothic fantasy romance, I believe. First in the duology, it says Elspeth needs a monster. The monster might be her. A maiden must unleash the monster within to save her kingdom in this dark, lush, gothic fantasy debut. Very interested to try this one out. I feel like this would be good for fall, but we'll see if I can wait till then to read it. Lastly, we have What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. This is one of my book club picks for April. I had a hold at the library, but I found it at Target for 20% off, so figured might as well own it. I have a feeling I'm really going to enjoy this one. This is a historical fantasy set in Egypt. It has a little enemies to lovers romance with some mystery, some adventure. The mummy meets death on the Nile, apparently. Sounds like a really, really interesting book, so I'm excited to read this in the month of April for sure. Adelaide finally decided to settle down at the end of the video. That's just wonderful. But anyway, that is all of my books that I've gotten in the past couple of months. I'm excited to dive into these at some point. Let me know if you read any of these books so I know what to prioritize, what your thoughts are on them, and also let me know if you've picked up any good books lately. That is all for now. Me and Adelaide say goodbye. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye!